There's a downstairs. It might be a little bit difficult to hear for now.
Okay.
Tell me when we're ready.
Ready, Marge.
Okay. Haribo. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. I don't see my keys anywhere though. Gopijana Balababa Giribharadhari Gopijana Balababa Giribharadhari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balalabha Girivardhari Gopijana Balalabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Paramadhava Kunja Bihari Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pastyacharisa Tarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare Hare. Everybody carry on singing. I've just got to do something for a minute. Just carry on singing. Can you go back up into the room there?
Yeah.
This is the key. I want you to get one. Animals, my book Animals. You know that book? Is in the bookshelf. You know the bookshelf on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
In the middle section, in the very bottom section, there's a little pile on the right-hand side of Animals book. Bring one copy. Okay? One copy.
Yeah, I have. Okay.
You have a key for that room?
Yeah, but I have to get it back to Sutapa, so I'll take this one and I will bring this back to Sutapa.
Okay.
Or
Let me bring these back.
Yeah.
And then that book is for devotee Mayank. I don't know if you know him.
I know him.
The boss or something like that. Give it to him. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, bolo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtota Sadashresi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki, Ananta Kota Vaishnavinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda ki, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shamakunda Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan ki, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki, Sri Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Maya ki, Jamuna Maya ki, Tulasi Devaki, Bhakti Devaki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtan ki, Brihat Mudanga ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Shri Gaurnitai ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Brihat Mudanga ki, Gaur Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Sarasate Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nevasesha Sanyavari Pastacharya Shatani. Hare Krishna Everybody, wherever you are, you have deepest, best wishes. Your Krishna consciousness. This morning we'll be reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, I think is text number 15 of the second chapter. Is that correct? 1, 2, 15. Continuing our reading of this second chapter of the Bhagavatam, where Sutta Goswami, having heard from Shukadeva Goswami, is now beginning to reply to the sages of Naimishranya their very relevant questions. Intelligent persons, they pose intelligent questions to the right source. So we have here the sages of Naimishranya, all very intelligent in the real sense of the term, putting forward very intelligent questions to Sutta Goswami. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, at least in the words of Gita, lost his intelligence. He lost his focus as to the purpose of human life. And in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, we see Arjuna is identifying himself with the body, and he is making decisions based on that false premise that I am the body. And he's also quoting Shastric verses, because most people on the material bodily platform of life, if they're pious, they may take up some kind of religious practice where there will be certain statements to help regulate them, to help them to become more self-controlled, more, let's say, pious. So Arjuna is even quoting verses there based upon Varna Ashram, etc. But he was forgetting the purpose behind Varna Ashram, the purpose behind human life, purpose of everything. And Krishna called him basically a fool, an intelligent fool. He lost his intelligence. Intelligent persons, they inquire about the ultimate goal of life. They're not so occupied with just posing questions about the temporary nature of this world. And even if they are, let's say, not familiar with spiritual life, they will pose questions like, well, actually, who am I? Why am I suffering? What happens when I die? Why have I been born in such a situation? Why are everyone's got so many differences over the same thing? Why are some living entities in animal bodies? They'll pose questions beyond, you could say, simply phenomenal scientific so-called conclusions, or the general knowledge which we receive in our ordinary education. Intelligent person wants to know why. Misdirected intelligence, many branch in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Bahujan, Vyavashyatmika would hear. The intelligence of those who are on this path is resolute in purpose. But those who are irresolute, those who are not resolute in their purpose, and that applies to aspiring devotees also. If we're irresolute, our intelligence is many branched. It is focusing on so many different thoughts within the mind, desires within the mind, objects perceived by the mind. The intelligence is constantly trying to work together to achieve that, satisfy that, speculate on that, so on and so forth. Misuse of our intelligence, not intelligent, in the real sense, unintelligent. Intelligent, unintelligent. misuse of intelligence. So many branch, Bahushaka Yanantascha Buddhyo Vyavasayanam. Many goals, even when chanting, we may be meditating on some other subject matter, whatever it may be, mundane or not, or even spiritual. We're not focused on chanting. We're thinking of something, or our intelligence is, we say remembrance is a function of the intelligence. It focuses on a particular aspect of what we see in our minds, and that's what we are perceiving basically through the media of the intelligence. So we're remembering maybe our youth, maybe some family member, maybe some event that's going on, maybe something which we're attached to, or something. So that's remembering. It's already there. It's already there on the mental plane, and the intelligence is, maybe surfacing, remembering those various events or whatever. Interesting word, remember. It's like recalling something. Is a member of something. We're remember is recalling what's already there, basically. We can't really remember something if it's not something which has already been there, or we perceived it. It may be perverted, jumbled up, but it has to be something which we've experienced already to remember. It comes up, forgotten, and we remember. So this is the science, of course, of Krishna consciousness. Today's verse is related to this subject of remembering. So we're going to go to the verse now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 And you should have it on your screen now. Yes, thank you. So, Yadanujastina Yukta.
Yadanudaya Sinanukta.
Karma Granti Nibandhanam.
Karma Ganti Nibandhanam.
Chindanti Kovidastasya.
Chindanti Kovidastasya.
Chindanti Kovidastasya.
Chindanti Kovidastasya.
Kona Kuryat Katarating.
Kona Kuryat Kataratim.
Kona Kuryat Kataratim.
Kona Kuryat Kataratim.
Once more. Yadanujasina Yukta.
Yadalya Sinayukta.
Karma Granti Nibandhanam.
Karma Granti Nibandhanam.
Chindanti Kovidastasya.
Chindanti Kovidastasya.
Kona Kuryat Kataratim.
Kona Kuryat Kataratim.
And the synonyms. Yat,
Yat.
which. Anudya,
Anudya.
remembrance.
Remembrance.
Asina, sword. Yuktaha,
Yuktaha.
being equipped with. Karma,
Karma.
reactionary work. Granti, not. Nibandhanam, internet. Chindanti, cut. Kovidaha, intelligent. Tasya, his. Kaha, who. Na, not. Kuryat, shall do. Kata, messages. Ratim, attention. And the translation to this very important verse in Bhagavatam: with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? Interesting terminology, sword in hand. It can be taken, it's the sword of knowledge rather than the physical sword. Some people may misunderstand this in their practical, you could say, preaching of whatever they're preaching, but it really means the sword of knowledge. As we see in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, armed with yoga, stand and fight. The doubts that are arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed with the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, stand and fight. This is the real meaning, whatever occupation in life may be. It's this yoga meaning to connect with Krishna. It's not some physical exercise. It's the process of remembering Krishna or reconnecting with Krishna. So that sword in hand is not the physical one, asina, but is knowledge, relevant knowledge. And it means applying it in our lives, in all situations. And this, no matter if we do appear to be entangled in this world, this is the means of cutting that entanglement, or that grunti. Grunti is not reactionary, not, can be severed, chindanti, cut by this process of remembering the personality of Godhead. And notice in this verse, ratim. Ratim in this case is translated rati, translated as attention. With attention. If the sword is blunt, then it's very hard to even cut paper, not to speak of other objects. Similarly, if our devotional service is dull or inattentive, unconscious, then it is very hard that there's not this attachment to material objects or the material desires within our minds. It's very hard to for that to be removed or cut out. Process of devotional service process, cutting out the boils. We may have an example of Prabhupada citing that. Yeah. It's not a matter of just pampering our material conditioning, but actually removing that which keeps us bound up in this world, whatever it takes. We may not be in that situation right now, but that's the actual situation. We have to be willing to let go, and not just let go, we have to get hold of something else, of course, Krishna consciousness. But this, it is sharp. The razor or the knife, the sword has to be sharp in order to cut that grunting abundant, that binding knot of reactionary work. You have to be very sharp, attentive. The word is used, rati. Rati normally refers to having a genuine taste in devotional service. And although it may not be on the platform of realization or spontaneity at this point of time, we have to apply that principle. Those who are on the spontaneous platform will naturally, it's like if we like something, you don't have to work very hard to, let's say, absorb yourself in it. You don't have to work very hard. If you, generally speaking, parents love their children, and they may be remembering them as much as they can. Or a boy and girl maybe in so-called love with each other, remembering each other, or maybe it's a sports or some musician or something like that. Whatever it, you used to say, you won't know this term, tickles my fancy. The old little couplet from a long time ago. The thing is, whatever attracts our attention, whatever we like to hear about, we don't have much difficulty remembering it. We may not be very spontaneously attracted to hear Krishna Katha or to hear a philosophy related to devotional service. We may be more interested in hearing mundane news or something. But if we want to, I mean, we're not spontaneous, but if we practice the natural behavior of those who are spontaneous, those are satam kirtiyanto mam, if we practice that spontaneous behavior under their shelter, this can remind us, this can bring to the surface again what we've forgotten. And in their association, we may get a taste for the service. It may not be a taste per se for love of God or Krishna consciousness, but maybe love of service or love of some degree of devotees or attraction to the deities, different ways that we may start to become attracted. Prasadam, of course, is a sure winner in most cases. Some another to become like that so that we have, and we'll be very attentive to it when it's something that's very close to us. If somebody is talking about me, I'm usually quite attentive. When I talk about someone else, it depends who it is and what it is. We'll be attentive to different degrees. So this word rakim in this particular verse is also a significant verse. Of course, Kovida, this word Kovida meaning intelligent. We've already discussed a little bit of the character of one really intelligent person. We hear later in the Bhagavatam, Krishna Varam Tisha Krishnam Sango Pangas Tapasham Gagya Sankhitam Praya Yajanti Samedasam. In this age of Kali, intelligent persons that they remember the personality of Godhead, or they engage in yagya, by the performance of the Sankirtan yagya. Intelligent persons chant the holy name of the Lord. It doesn't seem very intelligent, it seems quite simplistic. It's for fools or something. Some people say like that. But no, intelligent person is one who finds out the solutions to life's problems. And all the problems can be solved if we immerse ourselves in Sankirtan with rati, with attention, of course. So let's read the purport to this verse. The contact of the spiritual spark with material elements creates a knot which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work. Liberation means freedom from the cycle of reactionary work. There are many different definitions of liberation, several. This is one of them. We have on a very, can say, mundane platform, we have, maybe national liberation of the country. It's like, for instance, this year is the 100th anniversary of the day when Srila Prabhupada met his spiritual master for the first time in his life, 1922 in Calcutta. And at that first meeting, our Srila Prabhupada argued with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. Our Prabhupada was at that time, like Krishna's arrangement, a follower of Gandhi, and he was committed to, Swaraj, of trying to get Indian independence. And he put forward this proposal that unless India's independent of the British. How will people take us seriously? And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj defeated him with strong arguments that this Krishna consciousness is so absolutely needed. It cannot wait for independence. There's nothing to do with so-called external independence. This is the process of emancipation, process of freedom from birth and death. It's so important. People are dying by the hundreds of thousands every day. It's so important that Krishna conscious message gets through. So Srila Prabhupada was defeated there and then by the Bhakti. They accepted defeat anyway from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. So that was 100 years ago, this idea of independence. There's no independence in this world. It's an illusion. Then we have other, let's say, besides national, then we have social independence or gender independence or tenancy independence, gay liberation, women's liberation, animals liberation, whatever. People feel they're bound up. Well, they are bound up, but this campaign, this type of liberation does not free the bound soul from the problem. It may new label, just a new label on the same problem. Like if you have a pot of honey and you put a new label on, it doesn't change. The honey is the same. Just put a new label on it. Ah, that's a nice label. Maybe it'd be more attractive, I don't know. But it's the same honey in the pot. So even if we put a new label on this, basically the situation is the same. We're still in Maya. Still in Maya. So this idea of liberation of that kind is another illusion. And this liberation mentioned here is another thing, from freedom from the cycle of reactionary work. Now, many of those on the spiritual platform remove freedom from one's karmic reactions, both those which are reactions to actions and reactions which cause action, the whole process of cause and effect. Another type of liberation people look for is just to be freed of their bad reactions. Free me from my sinful reactions, basically. So that's a kind of liberation, but it's not, because the cause of that problem still remains. And it's still an illusion of thinking that, good reactions are good in the material world. There's another illusion. So that type of liberation is also completely shallow and without knowledge. And then there's liberation, which is mentioned here, freedom, entirely from the cycle of reaction work, not just freedom from the ill effects of our reaction work, but entirely free from the whole cycle, liberation from the effects of the modes of nature, liberation entirely from the whole cycle of karma, not cutting or freeing oneself from that whole entangling mess. That's another kind of liberation. Another kind of liberation may be to achieve one's goals. We've mentioned some of them already in a kind of, let's say, a collective way. We may be liberated from jail, for instance. You may be liberated when you get what you want. Something or another. Now I feel really liberated. I'm free. I can do what I want. Sometimes we have that kind of feeling of liberation. It's natural, the soul wants to be free, but we're bound up in this world. And we only get some temporary, illusory idea that we're free. And there's the liberation beyond the material world of maybe many others, but liberation, entering into Brahman, spiritual effulgences, merging into the Brahmajyoti. Most spiritualists consider this the success, perfection, moksha. Yes, moksha. But this also is not complete. It's not real liberation, because our real business is not just to enter the Brahman. Our real business is Krishna consciousness. So it's a stage, but the ultimate liberation is the liberation of when we remember or re-enter into the process of yoga into our eternal relationship with Krishna. So we'll read on. This liberation ultimately follows for one who constantly remembers the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead. I'm going to comment on that later. This is because all the activities of the Supreme Lord, his Leela, are transcendental to the modes of material nature. They are all attractive spiritual activities. And therefore, constant association with the spiritual activities of the Supreme Lord gradually spiritualizes the conditioned soul and ultimately severs the knot of material bondage. Because this is probably the subject we'll try to talk a little bit more about later on. Liberation from material bondage is therefore a byproduct that we should understand. The other kinds of liberation we mentioned are byproducts of devotional service. They may happen as a result of practicing devotional service, particularly freedom from bondage, freedom from karma, freedom from being controlled by the modes of nature like that. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. Such knowledge must be overcoated with devotional service. So just having theoretical knowledge of the subject matter, even in of itself, is not enough. It must be, it probably uses the word here, overcoated, covered with devotional service. It must be coupled with devotional service, so that ultimately the devotional service alone predominates, because constitutionally, knowledge is only there to help awaken or help us to perform our devotional service. As a servant of devotional service, both liberation, knowledge, and anything else that are all meant as servants of the devotional bhakti. Renunciation and knowledge, particularly in of themselves, are mundane. But when connected to Krishna, they can be spiritualized and they can be engaged in the process of devotional service favorably. We'll read on. Where are we? Then liberation is made possible. Even the reactionary work of the fruitive workers can lead one to liberation when it is overcoated with devotional service. So even though we may be entangled in this world, this process of karma, yoga, can help liberate the living entity and bring one eventually back to yoga. Similarly, empirical knowledge overcoated with devotional service is called jnana. It's not just jnana, it's jnana yoga, connection with Krishna. So those who are not that way inclined, materially speaking, philosophers, intellects, if they connect their knowledge, scientists and so on, with the Supreme, then that is also beneficial. It can spiritualize their consciousness. But pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana. It doesn't depend upon them, but for perfection, karma and jnana depend upon bhakti. Without bhakti, they remain mundane. Whereas bhakti yoga doesn't, it's not that we have to make a separate endeavor. Bhakti yoga is complete in and of itself. Because it alone, again, because it alone can not only endow one with liberation from conditional life, but also award one the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the highest liberation. There's Taraka Brahma Mantra, this mantra, so you can take it as a generalization of devotional service, but specifically mantras that liberate one from this material illusion or this material entanglement. Taraka Brahma Mantra. And Paraka Brahma Mantra, deliver love of God. So pure devotional service achieves automatically liberation and freedom from misery, etc. But moreover than that, it awakens in our hearts love of God, which serves all purposes. There's no need of any other endeavor. Sometimes people will say, well, have you read this? Have you done this? Have you tried that? Maybe we have, maybe we've not, but we don't. A pure devotee on the pure devotional path doesn't need to, because the purpose of this, that, the other is to come to pure devotional service. Having reached pure devotional service, what's the need of this, that, and the other? It's not required. And if we don't come to the devotional service or pure devotional service, what's the value of all these other things? They're useless. They're Shrama Avi Kevalam. There's no value of them either. So they may be engaged in devotional service, but in themselves, knowledge, renunciation, mundane achievements, etc., are all bondage in the bigger picture. It's only when they're overcoated with devotional service can we be freed of bondage, bound up by a conception that we're Brahman is not untrue, but it's incomplete. It's another form of covering or illusion. And so until we connect with devotional service, then we can, otherwise we're being trapped in Brahmajyoti. To free us from that one, which is even worse than being trapped in material world from the devotional point of view. So yeah, this is, we'll read on here. Where are we? Next paragraph. Therefore, any sensual man who is above the average man with a poor fund of knowledge must constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him. We heard that last week or the week before, I don't know when it was. Tasmat ekena manasa bhagavan satatam patihi. One should hear about him, and by worshipping him always without cessation. Devotional services, without cessation, unmotivated. None of these other objectives should be there. And uninterrupted is a constant factor. Maybe we wonder how on earth can I do that? It's not very easy. Okay, but that will be a little bit more later on. By glorifying him, this is the ninefold process maybe being unfolded here. By remembering him and worshipping him always without cessation. That is the perfect way of devotional service. The Goswamis of Vrindavan, who were authorized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach the Bhakti cult, rigidly followed this rule and made immense literatures of transcendental science for our benefit. They have chalked out ways for all classes of men in terms of the different castes and orders of life, in pursuance of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and similar other authoritative scriptures. Okay. Looks like the end of this particular purport. So this is their mercy, these great devotees who have a great desire to hear and chant about Krishna. They want to pay attention. So though the last line of this verse, therefore, who will not pay attention to his messages? Elsewhere, we see if it's Tashi, Pagiyamana, Bhavoshiji, Chotamanobi, Ram Kutamashloka, that one should hear this message from such persons. Hearing the message from such persons helps to evoke remembrance of Krishna. By hearing one of the main limb of devotional service, the subject matter from the right source, it cleanses the heart from bhavarog. It is the medicine, in our minds, full of material desires, can be cleansed or removed, flushed out by this remembrance of or hearing about the personality of Godhead from the pure devotees of the Lord. Who will not pay attention to this? Only those who are butchers or those who are killing themselves, which literally means those who deny the nature of the soul, or those who are atheistic or pseudo-religious, whatever it may be, and those who are engaged in barbaric activities, absorbed in any kind of sense gratification. They have no time to hear messages of Godhead. And many times we meet people, no time. I'm not interested. I got more important things to do. I got this one yesterday. One man, he said, yeah, trying to distribute books. And this man said, yes, come with me. My wife, she's got the card. We'll pay by card. So we went off. His wife was totally aghast and totally against the idea. This money, we need it for this, we need it for that. We can't spend it on this stuff. Where should we go now? So people think they've got more important things to do. We've got something, I got to spend this money so we can suffer. We need to suffer more. We can't spend it on this. This might bring us happiness. No, we've got to buy this, we've got to buy that. So we can become tied up in a knot of action or reaction, tied up in karma, birth and death. Everyone's, what to say, hoodwinked to think that this material so-called advancement is actually making us any happier. Maybe a little relief, it's like anyone knows that sense gratification is like that, whether it's sexual urge, you get a little relief. Bhagavatam describes it like itching, relieving the itch. But then it itches more afterwards. Drugs, people who are addicted to drugs, they get a little relief when they take a drug or something. But then again, the urge comes quicker. Krishna says it burns like fire more and more. The more you feed it, initially when you put ghee, for instance, on the fire will go down. But when that ghee heats up, boom, the fire will go up even more than before. A sense enjoyment is like that. And people completely bound up this karma grunta bandhanam. Karma grunta, the knot of action and reactionary work, bound up by this knot. And when you're bound up, you can't get released. And someone has to come along and untie the knot or cut the knot. In many cases, it's so entangled, it has to be cut. Prabhupada describes that a sadhu, a saintly person, is one who's down. He gave us this rather a heavy example. Don't get it wrong, and don't feel this is too much. It's just to explain the point. But one time when Prabhupada was giving a lecture in Gorakhpur, in UP in India, and Prabhupada was speaking quite strongly against those who are misleading in the name of religiosity or spirituality. And one lady kind of was challenged a little bit. Why, Swamiji, you're speaking so heavily? Other Swamis don't speak like this. They speak very nicely about this and that. Prabhupada, she said, this doesn't sound very compassionate. Prabhupada said, your idea of compassion is when you have a boil on your arm, you puff on it just to relieve the fever or the heat. But no, that's not the process. He said, you have to take a knife and slash it out. The lady was shaken. Prabhupada was very strong. He said, this is the business. And he took this from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who described the definition of a sadhu as like one who stands over the sacrificial goat. I hope maybe some of you have experienced this in Malaysia. I've not directly seen it, but I've been to many temples where there are goat slaughter temples are there, and that's their business. And it's very, talk about the mode of ignorance, but anyway, whatever it is. And like that, and they stand over there with a sharp knife ready to sever the head of the goat. So similar to sadhu with strong words is severing this knot, this karma grunta, with strong words. Now, in the beginning, it may not be remembrance of Krishna so much. He reminded us yesterday of a statement of Srila Prabhupada, which used to be quite remembered. One time, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, or said to Prabhupada, that sometimes Prabhupada, I forget Krishna. What do I do about that? Prabhupada said, you don't sometimes forget Krishna, you always forget Krishna. Sometimes you remember him. Our lives are mostly forgetting Krishna. We don't remember him. I mean, even sometimes you can chant 16 rounds of japa or in a kirtan or even worship the deity. And when it comes to the end, to be all honesty, we didn't really remember Krishna. One devotee was here yesterday, some of you know him, Sutapa Prabhu, and he was giving a talk. And he remembered an incident where he was chanting his 16 rounds, going up and down in the room. There was a beautiful picture of Krishna Balaram in the room in a glass, frame. And he was going up and down chanting all 16 rounds in front of this picture of Krishna Balaram. At the end of his 16 rounds, he suddenly dawned on him there was a picture of Krishna Balaram there. But he said he didn't kind of register. He was saying every time he saw that reflective, or that glass, it was reflective glass, every time he saw it, he was seeing himself in the reflection. That's what we see. Our false ego. We see ourselves in the center. I am the doer. Well, this is me. Praise me. Whatever it is, I'm doing well. And, this is not remembering Krishna. It's like a sadhana, mechanical devotional service. Of course, that has its value too, but it's got to be transformed into pure devotional service. Krishna reveals himself to the one he chooses. He gives us remembrance. As that verse goes in the back, in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. I remember that. Slipped my mind. Sarvasya chahamri sannivishto mataksmati jnanam panam cha. From me, Krishna says, comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. It comes from Krishna. So the whole process of devotional service is to connect with Krishna, to please Krishna, to understand how everything comes from Krishna. So in the material world, which we're still connected with, we may still have knots in our hearts. I don't know if any of you know this. When you have a masseur, they're looking for knots. They're like little, I don't know what you call them in scientific terms, little blockages in our system, maybe some, whatever it is, entangled nerves or air blockages, something or another. Blockages in our system. And through massaging, they can release the blocks. And sometimes you hear them go pop as they release them. There's many blockages which are causing you to be jammed. Your back is jammed, your neck is jammed, whatever it is, something or another. An expert masseur can, by knowing the science, can release those blockages. But similarly, expert Vaishnavas, they know how to cut that knot. It's also described as a knot when these blockages are like a knot, whatever it is, in the back, which has to be released. And devotional service, relevant devotional service, particularly hearing and chanting the messages of Godhead, is the medicine. It is this means by where we can sever this knot of bondage or illusion which we're in this material world. Our attachments to temporary objects or attachments to various non-Krishna conscious thoughts or subject matters, our attachment to a certain identification which we have as a result of past association and karma, which is developed into a form of false identity and consequent desires therein. All this can be cleared up when we attentively and hear from the right source the message of Godhead. Why? Because the Lord, when he sees us paying attention to him, when he sees us calling out like a child calling for its mother, the mother pays attention to the child. The mother and the child only wants the mother, nothing else. And then the mother comes and gives her a little story, a little example there. When the mother was cooking something on the oven in the kitchen, the baby is in the next room and started crying. So the mother comes naturally to appease the child, rocks the child, whatever it is, and the child stops and maybe falls asleep again. The mother puts the baby down, goes back to the kitchen. After some time, the baby starts crying again. The mother comes and tries to entertain the child with some toys or something or other. The child's happy for a while, stops crying, back to the kitchen, continues cooking. After some time, the child cries again, not sad, throws the toys out of the cot or the bed or whatever it is. And you know how it is, if you've had kids, this is a common thing. And the child cries and cries and cries, and nothing the mother does satisfies it. She has to give her full attention to the child, because the child has no interest in anything else except for the loving embrace or the breast of the mother. No other interest. But as long as there is something else which distract the child's attention or satisfy the child's attention, then the mother will not really as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. You only get some temporary relief only from the Lord. But when we completely surrender, then the Lord gives everything. He sacrifice. He himself wants to give himself to the devotee. For the devotee is only remembering him, only focused on him. And that's the process of devotional service, to come to that platform. We don't start at that platform. That's the perfectional platform of practicing devotional service, is that we're constantly remembering the personality of God. All the rules and regulations of devotional service are meant for this point. Smartavya satatam Vishnu Vishmatavya Jatachit. To always remember Krishna and never forget him. And Krishna himself is the one who liberates the living entity. He is the one who, from him everything comes. So even our emancipation from this illusion is entirely by the grace of the Lord. Prabhupada writes in his Markane Bhagavat Dharma how the living entities, he said, by your will they have come into this world, and by your will they can be freed or liberated. What does that mean? The will of the Lord, it seems to be the only factor involved. No, it's a reciprocal thing. When the Lord sees that we want to be entangled or we want to be separated from him, he makes the arrangements. We cannot make the arrangements. He provides, like a mother or father provides the toys for the child. The child can't get the toys. He can't go into a toy shop and just grab what he wants, and that's it. He may not go to prison, of course, as a child, but he'll be admonished. The toys will be returned. They don't belong to him. The child doesn't know. His intelligence is immature. But people don't know what they're doing in this world. They're immature intelligence. They're not Kovida. They're not intelligent. They're the opposite. Mudas. They don't know what they're doing. They think it belongs to us and it's mine. I can do what I like with, like a little child goes into a toy shop and just grabs what it likes, or a sweet shop. So that's what we're doing in this world, drilling holes in the ground, bombing things, moving things around, doing what we like with our bodies. Another fallacy. It's my body. I can do what I like with it. This is gross ignorance, grossest ignorance leading to unending suffering. But they don't know. They're in complete ignorance. And no one is teaching it. They're just facilitating it. The blind, leading the blind into a ditch, going down into hell, basically. They don't know what the purpose of life is, and we don't know what we are or who we are. What's the use of a life if we don't even know who I am? It's like, anyone we see on the street, you say, who are you? And they say, I don't know. This guy's nuts. They're crazy. They don't know who they are. But actually, everyone's in that same, who is crazy? Everyone's in the same boat. They don't really know who they are. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm American, I'm English, I'm French, whatever it is. These are just temporary labels that we're wearing. I'm a green coat, I'm a blue coat, I'm a Nike shoe, I'm a whatever it is, Reebok or something like that. That's not, I'm a blue-haired man, I'm a green-haired lady. We're none of these things. It's just some temporary, paint on the coat. People don't know who's inside the coat. The sadhu teaches who's inside the coat and how to get free of these false identities by giving the process of devotional service. The cleanse of all of these false identities, these tendencies and desires within the heart can be cleansed away by the grace of the Lord's devotees. Giving the process of Rishikesha Bhakti, the process of devotional service, of linking ourselves with the Supreme Lord. So we may be a little mechanical in our devotional service, not remembering Krishna, though Krishna says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kalishu Mamanusmayurjit Chatu Arjuna. In all your activities, be remembering me. You have to remember me. With your activities dedicated to me, your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. We're meant to remember the Lord. That's the idea of devotional service. In the 18th chapter, Krishna discusses it quite in some length there, how to become conscious of the Lord in all that we do. Remember him working behind everything, different stages, the stage of karma, then seeing how everything is going on under his direction, how everything's connected, his energy is, how everyone's being guided by the material nature, which is under him, Prakriti, going on under his direction. Trying to remember everything around us is related to Krishna. This will help to release this knot. It may not completely sever it until we come to the pure platform, but it starts to release it more and more and more and more. Entangling knots by devotional practices or connecting our activities with Krishna through various forms of yoga. Like that. So there are many, many references in the Shastras to remembering the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, of course, when he was challenged, but his father asked him, of all knowledge, tell me, what is the best thing you've heard, my dear son? So Prahlad Maharaj was naturally fearless, having taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and remembering the Lord. When we remember Krishna, then all the problems of this material world just kind of, they maybe seem to be there, but they're not affecting one. In one sense, they're helping us to become more conscious of Krishna. Krishna puts us in different situations, sometimes to prepare us for the final test of death, to help remind us of him, remembering we have no other shelter other than Krishna. And the easy way to, Prabhupada said, the only prayer should be to pray to the Lord in the heart, that you are my heart, my Lord, please always remind me to chant your holy names. Always to remember, remind us, remember to chant the holy name of Krishna. This is a practical way in this Kali Yuga of remembering the personality of Godhead. When we chant Hare Krishna, to remind us. So, and when we chant, it may be a little mechanical, but by rendering service, chanting the holy names, associating with devotees, trying to regulate our activities according to the directive of the pure devotees, gradually cleanses our heart. As we hear in the next few verses, as the heart becomes cleansed and the natural attraction for hearing about Krishna develops. So the key here is the willingness to take that association. When the living entities will and desire spiritual life, then Krishna also reciprocates for that. He releases. Krishna in the 12th chapter says to Arjuna, I am the swift deliverer from this ocean of birth and death. This is referring to those who are engaged in unflinching devotional service. We're still one foot here, one foot there. We're not completely surrendered as such. So we get a little bit of a taste of service, or different aspects of devotional service, but at the same time, we're maintaining some attractions or attachments in this world. So mixed devotional service doesn't fully satisfy the self. And it is risky. We can also become overcoated with materialism again. No, we have to overcoat ourselves, cover ourselves, smear our body. We were reading 2 days ago, I think, the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, not the prayers, the statement of Prahlad Maharaj. Two statements now we're going to mention of Prahlad Maharaj. One was referring to this covering. From where did you get this knowledge, Prahlad? Hiranyakashipu wasn't very inspired by his son's statement that the best of all knowledge is Shravanam Kirtanam, Smaranam, Shravana Kirtanam, and devotional service beginning with hearing and chanting Smaranam, remembering, praying, worshipping, and so on, serving the lotus feet, like this, befriending. And Prahlad Maharaj answered his father like this is the only thing of worth that I've listened to. Where the heck do you get this from? How is this? So Prahlad Maharaj explained, only if you want this knowledge, you can only by smearing one's body with the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotees of the Lord. This is the only way that this is realization is possible. When we follow the instruction, make the instruction of the pure devotees our life and salt or the Shastra. We live our life according to the instructions of the Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. This is smearing one's body with the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. Always remembering their instructions and applying them in our lives. Of course, that's stage in the sadhana bhakti process, which continues, it just continues on higher and higher or deeper and deeper levels of attachment to Krishna, realization of who we are, realization of our relationship with Krishna, etc. And that we continue to hear from the eternal associates of the Lord how to increase Krishna's pleasure. And then when Krishna sees that we're sincerely following, then he reciprocates and releases us from this bondage which we're bound up to material attachments of various kinds. Okay, so just see that. We could read from Nectar of Devotion. There's a nice section there. You can read it yourself. Page 91, I think, or 81 maybe, of the Nectar of Devotion. Let's see which page it's on. Got it here. Page 91 is a nice section in English version, at least. Page 91 of the Nectar of Devotion called Remembering. You can read it. And it goes on to discuss meditation. Meditation is meditating on Krishna. In this case, not just meditating on some energy of Krishna, but meditating on the Supreme Lord himself, the source of everything. That's what meditation is really fixed upon. Meditation also means to evoke remembrance of, to focus one's consciousness attentively on that particular object, in the ultimate case, on Krishna, remembering the personality of Godhead. So our devotional daily service is meant for that purpose. So many verses in the Bhagavatam discuss this principle of remembrance, the effects of remembrance of the Lord, whether it's Queen Kunti, or whether it's Bhishma, or Pandavas, whoever it is. Like when Arjuna was returning from Dwarka after the Lord's departing from this world, his mind was very disturbed. And that he remembers the instructions of the Lord on the battle of Kurukshetra to him, and all the trash is described. All the trash in his mind was immediately dissipated, immediately dissolved or evaporated. Simply in the presence of Krishna, remembering Krishna, smaranam, simply by remembering Krishna, just like when the sun is present, or the dirty, whatever it may be, dirty things on the earth become cleansed, they become purified. We may have dirty things in our hearts in terms of material desires separate from Krishna, but they can be eradicated by the process of remembering Krishna, evoking remembrance of Krishna. So I think there'll be some questions on how we can evoke remembrance of Krishna, maybe. Or any other little points which we've mentioned today. So we'll open up for questions now, and we'll take it from there. So please, if you have any questions, best if you can type them in the chat section. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So if there are any questions, please feel free to chat them in. We had a very nice group of devotees just this week from London. Many nice devotees come to New Mayapur now, back in New Mayapur. From the United Kingdom, groups of devotees, back to the some of the groups coming in. We've had a good fortune of being with them the last 3 or 4 days. They're just now leaving, actually. They won't be there when they leave. But they're just now in the bus. Maybe they've left already. and we remember them. And this is also remembering devotees is also purifying. Remembering devotional service is also purifying. Not just remembering Krishna per se, but any kind of that which is connected to Krishna. Even the material energy, when we remember it in relation with Krishna, is purifying. Seeing the trees as the heroes of the Lord's body, or the mountains as stacks of his bones, and so on and so forth. Rivers like his veins. So we remember the Supreme Lord behind everything. So anything in chat? No chit chat this morning? Nobody out there has any questions? No COVID this morning, no intelligent persons. Come on. Must be someone out there. The whole process of devotional service given to us by the acharyas is for this purpose, to remember Krishna. We chant japa to remember Krishna, we remind kirtan, to remind ourselves and others about Krishna. If we said it's not necessarily going to start with conscious awareness, but it's something, oh, I like that chanting. Oh, I like that food you serve. Oh, I like your temple. Some impression is there on the platform of the mind. And because we've accepted that impression favorably, Krishna is like, he's the highest intelligence, because he acted as Arjuna's intelligence. And he reminded Arjuna, through knowledge, of his real business. By the knowledge from Guru Shastra Sadhu, we're reminded of our real business, so we no longer bind ourselves up, and we remember the goal of life. This is good to remember why we came to Krishna consciousness. When we first came, what was it? Was it just chance, or was there some purposeful intention involved? It may not be for the pure reason, but we had a reason. It means to say we were looking for something more. What we had was not enough, or not satisfying. Looking for something more. But to go back into that world we already concluded was not satisfying, it's not very intelligent. Even though there may be a little bit of stress or challenge, difficulty in the practice of devotional service, we were having difficulty before. The difference being is that the devotional service, it cleanses us of the very desire to act in such a way as to bind us in this world. In the material world, when you act according, when you have some, let's say, difficulty, whatever, there's no benefit whatsoever. It's just a karmic reaction. And we deal with it in a karmic way, so we get more entangled. So let's see if there's some questions have come in now. Let's see. S. Not a question. I'll go back to the beginning again. How do we know if we are making progress in Krishna consciousness? Well, there are some general symptoms, some specific ones. You are making progress if you're any form of devotional service adding. It may not be proportionally great compared to our materialistic entanglements or contacts. We're making progress. It's gradually building up. Assets are gradually building up. And when they become bigger, of course, they become prominent in our lives. So much prominent, we don't want to engage in material activity. We don't want to watch the TV. We don't want to waste our time in unnecessary things. We have no more attraction for mundane sense enjoyment, but we have an attraction for hearing and chanting about Krishna or engaging in service. So that's, say, one symptom specific to ourselves. And The symptoms are there. We can ascertain in the association of devotees. When our desire or attraction to associate with devotees is becoming stronger and more stronger rather than our association with non-devotees or with mundane things. Attraction for hearing and chanting, associating with devotees is becoming stronger and stronger. And we see our inclination towards sense gratification subsiding and our inclination towards devotional service rising. This is generally another symptom. Then one can qualify it with Guru Shastra Sadhu. Lord Chaitanya qualified it with his Guru Maharaj when his Guru gave him the Maha Mantra to chant. He qualified his symptoms. He was feeling ecstatic symptoms. He qualified that with his spiritual master. We can qualify it with devotees. Our appreciations, our enthusiasm, our attraction for hearing and chanting. And in the heart, feeling satisfied in devotional service. There's not a hankering to go outside or do other things or compromise. At a different stage in the beginning, it might just be a little attraction for the service. Or you may just have some attraction to serve, to please the devotees or do something or other. Maybe you like doing what you're doing, so there may be some attraction there for what we're doing in devotional service. Progress. Well, when you feel the heart becoming cleansed, you see a child growing, he's growing. The child may not detect it, but the parents or family members, friends can see that the child is growing. So devotees around us are also evidence, you could say, confirmation of our devotion. We should open our hearts up if we want to advance. No more fear. Another symptom is you become fearless. Not afraid to reveal one's heart in confidence to others. Not afraid of the reactions of the mature world, or becoming less and less afraid. More and more dependent on Krishna. Haribol. Unrelated question. What is the difference between prasad and Mahaprasad? You may have to wait a few minutes more than usual to get Mahaprasad. That's not the real difference. Generally, we say Mahaprasad when it's offered on the altar itself. Generally, although Prabhupada did say everything was cooked from that particular. For instance, you're cooking a pot of dal, you offer a small cup to the deity. A small cup is considered to be Mahaprasad. Everything's prasad, but Prabhupada says all Mahaprasad because Krishna eats everything. But from our perspective, it has a special significance and a special, let's say in our heart, respect. Mahaprasad. The Mahaprasad, the remnants of the Lord. And we used to reverentially honor Mahaprasad. Although there's no, in one sense, there's difference, non-difference, and simultaneous difference and non-difference. But it helps to take away that tendency to be over familiar. We just take a shot of like nice tasty food sometimes. Oh, I like that. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. You can't do that with a Maha. Prabhupada in Bombay had devotees mix everything together, sweet, savories, everything, chutneys, because devotees are becoming discriminating. Mix it all together. Mahaprasad. There's sometimes said that Krishna's, because that Mahaprasad offered to Krishna on the altar, or wherever. The touch of the Lord's lotus lips and tongue, the saliva of the Lord, different things with them in particular. But it's, Prabhupada said all the prasadam, only taking one little pot out of the big pot, but the whole pot is Mahaprasadam. Prasad is a general term meaning mercy, the greatest mercy. But still, we should respect that which is offered on the altar. Part of the process of just remembering that this food is not ordinary food. This food is prasadam, is offered to the Lord. Another question. Really glad to understand that remembering devotional service is also a way of thinking about Krishna. Yeah, it's remembering devotional service is not, is certainly a stage, and even an advanced stage, it will also be there, but it's not the only form of remembrance. Remembrance will be for Krishna. Gradually, Prabhupada said, we remember the holy name, then Krishna reveals his form, and then he reveals his pastimes and qualities one by one, they unfold. So by remembering devotional services helps us to remember the holy name. But we may not be so attentive when we chant. Eventually, then by remember the holy name, the Lord reveals his form. Remembering devotional service is not like it's, of course, all the 9 limbs of devotional service is not just one. Remembering, there's 9 limbs of that. So, practicing any of these limbs of devotional service can help to remind us of Krishna. Should be. Purport. Another one. What are the boundaries we need to put with our parents? In one sense, it's our duty to take care of them, but in other sense, they're non-devotees, they can harm our spiritual life. Always a sensitive issue, you could say, and delicate balance in dealing with one's family members if they're not devotees, even if they are devotees sometimes, but more specifically when they're not devotees, or they're attached to their own design, they're attached to what you do because they think you're their kid and you should, do what they want you to. It's an extended form of sense gratification. So how do we find that fine balance then? Well, it's not as I say, it's not the easiest thing to get that balance, but always trying to keep a good spiritual life going, which will help reading, studying, sharpening our intelligences. Intelligence is sharpened by study of Shastra, particularly, or by hearing the message of Shastra. Helps to sharpen our intelligence so we don't become bewildered by somebody else's bewildered intelligence. And we can keep our intelligence a little bit more focused on the ultimate goal, and always seeing how I can connect my parents or family members to Krishna. Seeing the opportunity, prasadam or something or another, to help connect them to Krishna. This is how a devotee doesn't condemn. Of course, we're indebted to our parents in many ways. We're certainly not, but always thinking of their welfare, but not compromising one's own devotional practices, being very humble, polite, respectful, mood of service towards them. Many things which can help improve the relationship without compromise. Cook for your parents or something like that sort of thing. You know how. Don't cook if you don't. It's something everybody knows, but then we should make sure that it's something attractive, otherwise they won't be very impressed. Different ways that we can try to connect to our parents without becoming caught. When you go fishing, you don't want to be caught by the fish. So sometimes we have to keep a little bit of a healthy barrier, that which we don't want to compromise our principles. They won't be doing, it's like probably when you stay in Butler, the host, Gopal Agarwal, Sally Agarwal, they had meat in the fridge and they were obviously not following a very vegetarian lifestyle. Different ways we can try to help our parents or help our family members to remember Krishna, but in a very polite way, not in a kind of a fanatical, evangelistic way that we're going to listen to me, I'm going to save you. That won't go down. Show respect to one's parents. Thank you, mother, father, all the kindness you showed me. And I know you may not appreciate what I'm doing, but believe me, you know, I feel so grateful to you for all the service, all the help, all your kindness that over the many years of my life. And without you, I would have, you know, what we do, we would have not matured. You know, so we show respect where respect's due, and just be patient. Don't expect overnight changes there. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. On the other hand, Bhagavad Gita 4:38 states, in this world there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Let me see, I'll go through that again. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation. You know, well, it's a simple thing. It depends on Krishna's mercy. It doesn't depend upon anything else. The awakening of dormant love of God does not depend at all on the mechanical process of hearing and chanting, but tends wholly and solely on the mercy of Krishna. So the main feature we see with Mother Yasoda, and when she was trying to bind Krishna, that the rope was always 2 fingers too short. They are explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that those 2 fingers too short is not because the rope wasn't actually long enough in one sense. It was 200 meters long, obviously long enough to bind a little baby. But it's the intense endeavor of Mother Yasoda, but ultimately she cannot bind him without Krishna himself agreeing. So both have to be there. We have to show our intent, but we have to depend upon Krishna. One alone, Krishna's mercy is enough, but our own endeavor, our own intent is not enough. There must be the mercy of the Lord there. But generally, that's how it works. When a devotee renders full service, Krishna bestows his mercy upon them. That's the process. Yeah. So that transcendental, this world, there's nothing so sublime as transcendental world, because transcendental knowledge, because that knowledge releases us from this material world, but the release depends upon Krishna, not upon the knowledge. Knowledge helps to, when we put that knowledge in the same chapter, Krishna says those who apply themselves to this knowledge, this transcendental knowledge, realize this knowledge in due course of time. Krishna gives the realization. Krishna's reciprocating. Another one here. How can we be certain of spiritual realization we discover or understand ourselves? Or, sorry, I'll read it again. How can we be certain that the spiritual realization we discover or understand ourselves is on the right path to, or approved by the Shastra or by realized souls, or is it a realization at all? It might be. Krishna is the God in the heart, he's the Chaitya Guru. So as I mentioned earlier, Lord Chaitanya, when he was experiencing ecstatic symptoms, he wasn't sure. He may have been sure, but for our sake, he behaved like he wasn't sure. And he went to his personal spiritual master to explain, to clarify. So we go to devotees to clarify. If you're sincere, Krishna's guiding, you're not going to be misled. If we still have material motivations, we might be. We may have the wrong impression. But we generally place it before the devotees when there's a doubt like this, generally speaking. We can pray to the Lord, you know, for also the clarification to what is realization anyway, just understanding things for what they are, realizing them, and ultimately realization of a constitutional loving relation with Krishna. It is a realization. If we realize that devotional service is the means, that's a form of realization. It's corroborated by scripture. It is a realization if we're realizing that, I'll get some bad reactions, not very advanced maybe, but I'll get some bad reaction if I do this activity. I better not do it. You've had experience, you've got some realization. Now, it's a realization I better avoid offending devotees, otherwise I'm in trouble. It's a realization that we're not chanting my japa very attentively. They're facts, they're not just speculations. It's a fact. These points are factual, they're not just, that's your philosophy, they're simple facts. If you don't believe in Krishna consciousness, another thing, but in the light of Krishna consciousness, are facts. These are facts. So we can see from those facts that we're, let's say, qualify our devotion. There is something, how do you understand this? Rishikesh, Sampada, Mantra. Is that it? Oh no, there's one here. Why am I so fallen? Hare Krishna. Why am I so fallen? Well, why are we so fallen? Fallen, meaning why are we so trapped in this material world? Why are we so entangled? That's the meaning of literally fallen over. Spiritually, yes, we're fallen. We're an illusion. Why? Well, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said to the degree that we're still associating. It's not why you're so fallen, you can go historical on that one. But if we take it present tense, why am I now so fallen? Why am I not Krishna conscious? Rather than, what did I do to get up in this situation? That's another type of analysis. But why am I still fallen despite the opportunity to get delivered through Krishna consciousness? But still, I'm so conditioned. I'm still behaving like this or that. Or I'm still attached to this or that. I mean, serious attraction for devotional service and for false ego, whatever it may be. Why? It depends on our association, gross and subtle. How we're associated grossly, you have to see yourself. Whether we're, still putting water on the fire at the same time trying to light the fire. We're still indulging in sense gratification in the form of associating with sense gratifiers through social media or whatever it may be. Or maybe other reasons. Maybe you could say these are also, in a sense, the result of our conditioning, offensive behavior, and so on and so forth, which naturally keeps us from progressing in spiritual lives. So the changes on the other side, the negative side is one thing. The positive side is association and getting good association. So we can start to practice devotional service with more intent, with more concentration, especially when we're chanting and hearing with devotees. That will have both realizations come when we chant more attentively, a lot of realizations, not necessarily of Krishna and his pastimes, but more about our own fallacy of our perception of who we are in devotional service and so on. We start to repent. When we stop blaming others, this is one other practical aspect. Look within ourselves. Try to understand Krishna is acting in such a way to wake us up and look and see in our own hearts, what is it in my heart that's not favorable to devotional service? If we're fallen, that means we're embracing unfavorable desires or activities related to Krishna. Pure devotees always feel themselves very fallen. It's just a natural quality of personal analysis, you would say, or even though they're not, maybe fully engaged in devotional service, but they feel a very fallen condition. Those who are oftentimes, those who are fallen try to justify they're not fallen and try to show off that they're not fallen, or that they're advanced or something. But if we're sincere, to feel that I'm very fallen is a good situation, because from that situation you can come up, you can grow up. It can be advanced on the attitude. It can be a situation of say a catalyst for our devotional lives to advance. When you're falling, you're on the ground. What are you going to do? You can't fall down. You're already down. So now's a great chance to get up again, to progress in spiritual life. So we definitely should see that we are fallen. It also can have a precautionary factor that we're going to fall. I got to be careful. I better be careful. I'm in a fallen condition here. I better be very careful, both not to get completely swamped in the material world, and two, that I better do something about it. I better try to get better association on the growth and subtle platforms. Maybe an impetus for us to chant a little bit more attentively, a bit more seriously. That will have so many effects. Chanting the holy name is the practical means of remembering Krishna, most emphasized by our Lord Chaitanya and the Acharyas. And it's very joyful, you could say, many times. Sometimes in Kirtan we get some tasters there, but it has to be cultivated. So that our chanting becomes pure and pure. And then mechanical, we may say, trying to be attentive and hearing, but that's where it begins, that we want to hear it, that we're convinced of the necessity. We may not be convinced most of the time. We're not convinced of the absolute necessity of Krishna consciousness. We're just sometimes adding it to our baggage instead of filling our bag with Krishna consciousness and nothing else. We still have anchors in the ground, desires for other things which we want to either justify, cover over, or fulfill in our hearts. But still, association of the Lord, all this can be rectified. It's important. Association is important, very important. It's the only hope. You can see Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, how many of the eternal associates of the Lord, and maybe we've taken on different forms and different behaviors, seem to be very fallen. And then they feel, with the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, very repentant, they surrender. And they're always in a humble mood, you know. Jagai, Madai, most fallen, wretched Haridas Thakur, even Rupa Goswami, so fallen and lower than Jagai, Madai. Why really? Humble. Keep yourself in a humble position. Okay. Okay, I think we're going to have to finish there. You may have detected I'm super tired. I don't know how my intelligence is hanging on. Intelligence is very related to sufficient sleep. Sometimes it's drifting off. I think I'm going to have to take a bit of a rest this morning. We've had quite a very wonderful few days, but it's quite tiring, a little bit short on sleep. Nothing unusual there, but it's a bit more than usual. Okay, we're finished with a little kirtan. Thank you all very, very much today. Hare Krishna. Sorry for drifting sometimes. And we lose the thread sometimes when we're tired. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, all glorious to Srila Prabhupada. So thank you all again, and we'll keep in touch as and when the next Zoom session will be. If you wish to join us, you're very kind of you, and we're very fortunate to have your association. We need association, and otherwise, with good devotees, because that the qualities of the good devotees wear off on us. They act like touchstones on our consciousness. And when we associate with mundane things or offensive things, and that also has the same effect on our consciousness and polluting our consciousness. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, the consciousness is like the air, the wind. When it passes over a bed of roses, it becomes fragrant. When it passes over a stove pit, it becomes obnoxious. It's the same air. It just takes on, as to say, those flavors according to association. We'll keep good association so we can remember Krishna. More and more and more, and remember, by the mercy of the Lord, that He reminds us, if we make the effort to remember Him in this lifetime, then Krishna will reciprocate when the time of death comes. He will remind us of Him. We will not be lamenting or hankering at that time. All glories to Prabhupada. Thank you all very much. Safe journey. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.